Well, to say Shazam Fury of the Gods did not have a great opening weekend is a bit of an understatement. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about these box office results, why I think it failed, and where it ultimately leaves the franchise. Well, if you remember back in 2019, the very first Shazam movie was a financial success, but honestly, it really didn't make a ton of money. The budget was pretty cheap and it did eke out a profit, and that pushed WB into making the next one. Now, over this past weekend, Shazam Fury of the Gods finally released, and honestly, it did worse than everybody was expecting. Many people were hoping for a $35 to $55 million domestic opening, but by the time the smoke cleared from the weekend, Deadline was reporting that the movie actually did about $30.5 million in North America and $35 million overseas. Now, this is a pretty bad start considering how the drops typically work for these franchises, and ultimately, I think this movie probably will lose money. Now, Zachary Levi made it pretty clear a couple weeks ago, if we want more of Shazam, the box office for this movie is going to have to be pretty good, and this is not off to a good start. Now, the only upside is the film only cost about $100 million to make. Meaning if it can cross that $200 million line, it'll basically have a pretty similar return on investment as the first film, but like we said, that was not good at all. Now, I've seen the movie and I do think it's pretty good, so this is quite a shame. I think the franchise really had a lot of places to grow, and we never really got to see the character, as well as his rogues gallery, really come to fruition. Now, director David F. Sandberg has been tagged in a lot of posts in regard to this box office, and I have to say, his response leads me to believe he is pretty much done with this franchise. In one response, he actually said, "No worries, it's not like it comes as a surprise. I saw where this was heading a long time ago. I'll be alright. I got paid all my money up front." That's a really interesting quote for sure, and at that point it sounded like to me he could be pretty much done with the franchise either way. Now since then he's actually taken to social media and even confirmed that he was looking forward to disconnecting from superhero discourse online, meaning like we've warned many times, lots of good talent and good people don't really want to be part of the discourse, the toxic discourse that's so prevalent in this genre. Now, well, as for Zach Levi, he has also had quite a bit to say about the film. He's made it pretty clear it all comes down to the box office for potential sequels, but he has suggested in a couple of posts that the possibility for the character to return in the future does exist. He could be part of other franchises, and that just because James Gunn has a new slate, it's never been mentioned to him that the franchise itself is done or his version of the character. We know that Safran and Gunn are pretty tight, and Safran produced the Shazam movies, so I do think there's a strong possibility of Levi returning to the role in the future. Now, there's a lot of reasons why I think this happened. First and foremost, the first movie really wasn't a huge success, and typically you see some drop off in the second, and I think that was exacerbated by a lot of factors. Quite honestly, the new DC slate might have impacted it. It had an absolutely dismal marketing campaign. The connection with Black Adam, I think, created a lot of confusion for fans, and the fact that there was no crossover there really compressed the level of hype that could have been generated. Additionally, the young actors have gotten a lot older, and this was exacerbated by all the delays to the project, which shot way back in August of 2021. Which honestly is eons ago in the movie world, and I think many people simply forgot about the project. And then finally, I don't think they really chose the right villains. At the end of the last movie, we were teased with Mr. Mind, which could have brought in other cool classic characters like Tawky Tawny, but instead they decided to go with the Daughters of Atlas, who were pretty decent villains to be fair, but honestly, if they had used a classic Captain Marvel Shazam Rogue, I think it would have turned out much better, and there would have been some more fan excitement for one of those villains making a live action appearance for the first time. Now, what happens to Shazam in the future, we're going to have to wait and see. The mythology is a huge part of DC Comics, and I really don't believe James Gunn is going to shelve it for forever. When Shazam finally comes back and who's playing the character, we're going to have to wait and see.